Hello everyone, it's Day, your average Python programmer, and today we're going to go over the next three questions that we have in the Python exercises list. So I've tried recording this video before already and the audio got cut out. So what I'm going to do is just read the questions and then go through how I came up with the answers to them. So for exercise 4, we want to create a program that asks the user for a number and then prints out all the divisors for the number. So the divisors for the number are going to be the numbers that come before that evenly divide into the number, or it's just numbers that evenly divide into the number. So for that, we want to remember that we can use the module tool, and this is the function right here for it. So I know that we want to use the module tool because we want to have no remainder, and that means we want the remainder to equal 0, which is module equals 0, which means no remainder. So first I asked for the user inputs. So enter a number that they wanted to get the divisors of. And then I made an answer list so that I could put all the divisors into one list. So next we did 4 numbers in range 1 through numbers of divisors. And for this I did the user num plus 1 so that it can also print out the divisor itself, because the number is a divisor of itself because it evenly divides into themselves. So, and then the next line, if user num, and then module. So if user num divides into number, so this number that we're going through divides into number evenly, and then it appends that number to the list. And then here it just prints out the answer list. So let's run that down here. Let's see how that works. So if we look at the example it gave us, 26. So this will print out 13 and a couple more divisors. As you can see, 1, 2, 13, and 6 are the divisors of 26. All right. Now on to our next problem. So our next problem is called list overlap. It wants us to write a program that returns a list that contains only the elements that are common between both lists with no duplicates. So it wasn't that tricky. Well, it's kind of tricky if you think about it, because you want to make a list that has what's in common in both of these lists, but you don't want to duplicate. So the problem I ran into when I first did this is that it would duplicate the duplicates of the numbers. So one would duplicate twice, and then if there's any other duplicates, I print it twice. But for this, there's an easy fix. I did for I and A, so for number in this first list. So looping through this first list. If I is also in the second list and is not already in the answers list, then it will take the answers list and append I, and then it would print the answers list. I know that's kind of confusing because I have these names weirdly. So A is first list, B is second list, C is answer list. And I'm gonna go through one more time. So looping through the first list one by one. If the number that it's looping through is in B, it will append to C, which is answer list. But if it's already in C, then it won't. So this is not in C, it's checking for that. And let's run through that. So this prints 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13. And if we check 1, 2, 3, no 4 in here, 5, 8, 13. And that's all it has in common. Okay. And then here we go. I want to delete this. I was working on something here. So for our next question, it's called strings list. So it asks the user for a string and prints out whether the string is a palindrome or not. A palindrome is just a word that reads the same backwards and forwards. So for example, race car with no spaces reads the same. Bob is a palindrome, so on and so forth. So in this one, what you want to do is know list slicing. But basically what this line of code here is doing is reading the list backwards, or it's reversing the list. So we can treat strings as list in Python, which is what I'm doing here. I'm using a list method on a string because that works in Python. So for user input, just enter a word, and then the reverse is the word that's reversed. And here we're just doing user input and then reversing it with this right here. And I'll go over list slicing. I'm gonna do it in a separate video because there's a lot to it. And I know that there's a couple more questions that also involve list slicing. And then here, this block of code is just checking if user input is equal to reverse, then it prints out it is a palindrome. If not, it prints out it's not a palindrome. So let's test this. So we enter Bob, it should say it's a palindrome. But if we answer something like kebab, it's not a palindrome. And then we can try the race car. No spaces. And the word is a palindrome. Well, that's all I had for this video. Hopefully the next three I don't have any issues, so the video can be longer and more in depth. But for now, this is questions 4 to 6. Hope this was informative enough for you to understand. I'll see you guys in the next video.